Welcome to Drovers TV. I'm John Hamilton.
And I'm Terry Apostle. Drovers TV is the latest offering from Drovers, America's beef business source.
And we're here to bring you the latest cattle industry news in segments touching on everything from food and consumer to ranch management.
Here's what you'll see on today's show.
Nebraska feedlot manager Ann Burkholder discusses cattle feeding and beef quality assurance.
California seed stock producer Dan Bird tells us what his customers look for to make their cow herds more efficient.
And Allison Sundstrom of Grow Safe Systems explains monitoring feed intake for selection and detecting health problems early. In Drover to Drover, we hear from Ann Burkholder. She manages a Nebraska feedlot and is a strong advocate for beef quality assurance, but tells us she didn't grow up in the beef business.
I actually grew up in South Florida. I was born and raised in West Palm Beach, Florida. Went to Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. Met my husband there. My husband is a native Nebraskan. His family's been there since the 1940s. We were married in 1996 and moved back to Nebraska to the home place in 1997. My husband runs the farming aspect of our operation. I manage our cattle feed yard. So we have a 3,000 head cattle finishing facility between Cozad and Gothenburg, right along Interstate 80 there in central Nebraska.
Ann says participation in the Beef Quality Assurance Program helps make her a better manager, and she believes the program can help producers improve in all aspects of beef production.
Beef Quality Assurance has played a huge role in me learning to be a competent caregiver for my animals, and we all know that happy, safe animals make healthy beef, and that's the business that we're in. We want to produce healthy beef because we're feeding it to my children and your children and everyone's children all over the United States. And so the great thing about Beef Quality Assurance is it's a producer education tool that can show us how to better care for our animals, and at the same time it's also a certification tool so that we can go to the American consumer and say, hey, I do care for my animals and I'm competent in the care that I offer them. I'm BQA certified and I work diligently with my vet to make sure that my animals are healthy and producing safe beef.
Finally, Ann offers this tip for improving communications and decision-making among the feedlot staff.
I've worked very hard with my veterinarian and our consulting nutritionist to put together a treatment protocol book. And our treatment protocol book basically has everything that could possibly happen at the feed yard and what you ought to do when it happens. It goes back to the HACCP philosophy that BQA is founded on. Figure out what can go wrong, what's going to challenge you, and figure out the correct way to deal with it so that when it happens you can deal with it safely, effectively, and efficiently. So our treatment protocol book is the backbone of quality assurance at our feed yard, and good communication, making sure everybody knows what's going on, making sure everybody knows what's expected of them. That all helps everything to run smoothly.
John Sticka has been the president of Certified Angus Beef since 2006. He tells us in spite of the recent recession, demand for CAB products continues to grow as consumers seek value in their meat purchases.
What we've seen, what we continue to see even through the first 4 months of this fiscal year for us, is that the consumer is being more discriminatory in how they spend their protein dollars. And what we believe we're starting to see both at retail and food service is that the consumer is willing to spend the money if they believe they're going to get the value.
John says local Angus breeders and grassroots producers form the backbone of the CAB brand, and the group is working to enhance the connection between the producers and the consumers.
Some of the changes that we've tried to put in place have been efforts to tell that story about our producer connection more intently and specifically with the end user. They have an interest in knowing more about their food supply chain. And we believe we have a great story, and as our industry does, when we look at the quality men and women that really supply the beef to the consumer here in North America.
CAB offers cow-calf producers a best practices manual to help them manage cattle to meet program specifications and assure consumer acceptance. John tells us they recently have developed similar guidelines for stocker operators.
And we also have one that's more recent and been more recently released that targets the stocker segment on what are some of the things management-wise that we can do at the stocker segment to produce cattle that can have a better chance of hitting the brand, and by doing so create maybe a value-added opportunity for that producer.
John adds, while the percentage of cattle grading choice or better and qualifying for CAB has increased, research continues into ways to further improve beef quality.
At the National Western Stock Show in Denver, John Madej caught up with rancher Dan Bird. Along with his wife and son, Dan operates Bird Cattle Company, an Angus-based seed stock operation in Northern California.
We're a family operation located in the north end of the Sacramento Valley, about an hour and a half south of the Oregon border, near Red Bluff, California. We run about 400 total cows, about 250 recips, 150 purebred cows, and then stick a lot of embryos in Montana, Oregon, in cooperator herds, buy those calves back at weaning, and then they would go to Lucy Snyder's feed yard in Yerington, Nevada, where they're tested through the RFI test with GrowSafe, and then sold in our bull sale the first Friday night in September.
Dan emphasizes efficiency in the cattle he breeds and explains this can have multiple benefits to cow-calf producers.
We stress performance cattle. We don't show cattle at all. We think the performance end is the direction we need to go. We are looking for the feed efficient kind of cattle. We have our buyer base looking that way as well, and it's working out very, very well for us. I think one of the next important things is going to be the sale of carbon credits on these RFI kind of cattle.
Several feed yards cooperate with Dan by purchasing his customers' calves and providing them with performance data. He says that while feed yard performance is important, his customers increasingly look for cattle that are efficient on the ranch.
I think if there's one message our commercial customers are trying to get across to us, it's the fact that they are not interested in these extended growth kind of cattle, the high yearling EPD cattle with extended growth curves that are probably going to leave a daughter that's going to be too big for their environment, and they are getting that message across. And a lot of them are saying we don't want bulls with over 85 pounds of yearling weight. We want all the weaning weight we can get, but we're not interested in the big extended growth kind of cattle.
You can read more about Dan's operation in an article titled Efficiency Rules in the March issue of Drovers or on drovers.com.
GrowSafe Systems has developed technology for measuring individual feed intake and feed conversion in cattle. To explain the economic importance of feed efficiency while showing how the GrowSafe system works, here's Allison Sundstrom.
We took 42 different Braunvieh heifers from across the United States. We took them to the University of Missouri to be tested on a 70-day trial, and we brought the most efficient and the least efficient from that test to NCBA to show people what actually the impact can be. And in this pen of heifers, you'll see that we have a 49-cent per pound per day gain up to a 79 cents cost per pound of gain per day. And that's a huge difference. If you had 500 pounds of gain, that animal would have cost you $150 more to feed.
Allison also outlines the way the system measures how much feed each animal actually eats.
There's an RFID antenna built directly into the rim of the trough. And as the animal sticks her head through, we're measuring the RFID tag and the disappearance from the trough every second. That gives us a high degree of accuracy. If a bird or a raccoon or something comes along that's not tagged, we know that feed is disappearing without that. So it's highly accurate. And we have one set of panels that transmits all the data wirelessly up to 30 miles line of sight to the feed yard computer. It's actually very easy to use, very simple, and an average ranch family can actually use it well.
Changes in an animal's feed intake can serve as an indicator of its health.
If you're out there looking to identify sick cattle, you're going to look for changes in feeding behavior. You're going to look for that animal that's not coming to the bunk as often, and our system does the same thing. So what we look for is changes in feeding behavior, drop in intake, and we can usually tell when an animal's becoming sick about 4 to 8 days in advance of visual assessment and about 24 hours in advance of a body temperature change. So it's a very acute method of finding sick cattle early.
Finally, Allison describes a new system that weighs cattle as they come to the water trough while also measuring how much they drink.
In the feedlot, we're looking at animals that are not performing. We're looking to identify disease early, and we're also looking to market animals when the cost of gain begins to exceed the value of gain. So that's going to have a great value. When we were able to create this system, we also realized that we had the potential to be able to individually medicate animals that we identify as becoming ill.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Allison. I am sure a lot of people will be interested in the GrowSafe system.
And we appreciate you, our viewers, for tuning into Drovers TV. If you've missed an episode, be sure to head over to the archives.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks with more of the industry information you need. Until then, take care.